On today's episode of Gathering the Kings.
So patience is key, but more importantly, more than anything else, if you want to be a great manager, listen. Listen at least twice as much as you talk, at
Okay.
least. And that would probably be the minimum. You should, if you want to be super awesome, listen all the time and talk very little.
You are listening to Gathering the Kings with Chaz Wolf, featuring fellow 7, 8, and even 9-figure business owners who have real battle scars from business and life, but have prevailed as the king that they are designed to be. We welcome high-performing entrepreneurs to the stage in order to reveal the real of the real on what it takes to build a successful business today. We dissect the good and bad decisions they've made along the way that give a true and accurate picture of the journey of success and how you too can get there. Through this dialogue, you will learn the value of growing your network and surrounding yourself with power players and kings like today's guest. Grab your pen and notebook because we're about to dive in. What's up, everybody? I'm Chaz Wolf, Gathering the Kings podcast. I've got Dan Rubenstein here on the King stage. My brother Dan, how we doing?
Hey, Chaz, how you doing today?
It's Monday, and I get to talk about puppies, dogs with my man Dan.
That's
So
right.
I'm excited for this conversation. Excited for you to be here. Off air, we were getting into a little bit of your story. I had to be like, whoa, we got to hit the recording button. This is too good. We share a love for Saint Bernards, and I'm sure business. But let's jump into it. Dan, tell us what kind of business that you got, brother.
We have a dog daycare business. We have a chain of doggy daycare stores in Chicago and New York. We cater to pet parents who need help with their dogs on a daily basis, whether it be daycare, grooming, training, overnights. We do it all. We even do veterinary services through a partnership
Yeah,
at certain locations. So really all things under one roof, as our director of marketing likes to say.
that's awesome.
It's a labor of love. I didn't expect to be in this business. I was in technology for a majority of my career, which wasn't very long pre becoming an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
But I used to work for Accenture, and a really tragic event kind of inspired me to get into the business. And here I am, 23 years later, in my
Wow.
third platform, Pups Pet Club.
Pups Pet Club. Well, and I love, we're going to get into your story a little bit because it's so powerful. Even that traumatic event that you kind of just briefed over, we want to get into that and hear it. But you've been doing doggy daycare before doggy daycare was popular. You're the godfather of doggy daycare,
The OG.
the OG.
The OG of doggy daycare. Yeah. Yeah. It started, doggy daycare is interesting. It started really in New York. One or two stores popped up. Then, like a lot of things, it went coastal. So it went over to California. That was really in the early 90s. At the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, it hit Chicago. That's when I got into it. I'm from the New York area. I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut. I was on a
What?
project in Chicago with my Saint Bernard. We would share a love for Saint Bernards,
Yeah.
and yeah, that event, I had a tragic, event happen, that inspired me to start one of the first doggy daycares in Chicago. And doggy daycare came into being because of a real paradigm shift in pet parents' attitudes towards their dogs. We actually didn't even call them pet parents before the late 90s. We called them dog owners.
Right.
Now, you never hear that term anymore, not at all. And I think pet parents is a more appropriate term for the way we feel about pets nowadays. They're
Yeah.
very much a part of the family. They're
Right.
considered our children with four legs. They bring us incredible amount of joy to our lives.
That's
And
right.
they love, like family members should, two-legged and four-legged,
Yeah.
unconditionally. And that's the best part about dogs.
Yeah. There's so there's so much value there, and I think that it's great that you gave the perspective earlier of not just for dog lovers, but ones that see their pet as part of the family or that needs a special attention or even just a veterinary visit. I love practicality of kind of like the whole gamut that you've got going there. I want to the story of how this all started for you is a pretty impactful. Share as much detail as you'd like, but I want to. It's basically part of your why. So I'm going to
Mhm.
position my question how I normally do, but I'm prefacing it for you so that way you kind of know where I want you to go. a little
Okay.
bit because I know the story because you just shared it with me. But my question is, why are you doing the business? Why did you become an entrepreneur? What's the bigger picture? What's the burning desire inside of Dan? But I know some of that started with kind of how this started. So share that question, but as much detail as you like about how it started as well.
Yeah, that's interesting because I never thought I was going to be in the dog business.
Yeah.
I had a burning desire to be an entrepreneur. I've been a leader throughout my life,
Okay.
and I think entrepreneurs are natural leaders.
Yeah.
And so, I was a consultant, a technology consultant for Accenture. I was put on a project in Chicago. My best friend was living there at the time. He was going to medical school there. And he said, Dan, instead of traveling back and forth, why don't you, come out, live with me in Chicago? And, after you're done with your project, we'll go back to New York. A great idea. Chicago is an amazing city and I love Chicago. Even though it wasn't my home city, I fell in love with it. And Rich and I lived together for almost a year. The summer of 99 came and he had to move back to New York to accept his residency and start working as a doctor. And he said, "Hey, Dan, I'm going." Sydney, my St. Bernard was actually like Rich gave him to me. He said, "Dan, I can't take care of Sydney anymore." We had lived together. I had taken care of the dog, as if he were my own. So he said, Dan, please take Sydney. I won't be able to take care of him as well as you could take care of him." So I did. And through the summer of 99, my project in Chicago started to get like busier and busier. And I had to do something with Sydney during the day because he was just a 3-year-old St. Bernard, still a puppy in many respects.
Yeah.
And so he needed some exercise during the day. I found this dog exercising service. It was a pickup and drop off service. They came, picked them up. They would take him to a local dog park, let him play. And, you know, it was a great service. He loved it. He'd come home every day, like caked in mud. He'd be all over my bed and I wouldn't care. Like
Yeah.
he was happy and that was most important to me.
Yeah.
And then July 30th, 99 came around and it was one of the hottest days in Chicago history. I specifically had called the dog exercising service. I said, "Hey, listen, don't take him out with you to the park this week. It's too much for him. Please just let him out in the backyard and, let him pee and bring him back inside." And unfortunately, they neglected to follow my instructions. And that, after a series of really terrible things happening, Sydney ended up in the hospital fighting for his life as I was also fighting to save his life.
Yeah.
And about 13 hours into the fight, he just succumbed to his ailments due to heat stroke, right? A lot of complications. He had liver failure, renal failure, petechia, really terrible stuff that you never want any animal to go through. It just suffered, terribly. And
Yeah.
that devastated me emotionally. I called my manager on my project. I said, "Listen, I need to take about a week. I'm suffering here. I'm totally depressed." And I'm on the couch at home, and my girlfriend at the time, God bless her, she came and said, "Hey, Dan, you've got to get out of the house. You're just on the couch and you're miserable." And so she took me for a run in Lincoln Park, and that run was liberating for me. I would go from dog to dog and I would get completely emotional. I would just
Yeah.
stop every pet parent I could see and say, I'd ask them about their dog and, and I would start petting them and hugging them. And I was crying and
Yeah.
feeling everything that I just was, wanting to feel over that past week. And all this came pouring out. And then as I started going from dog to dog, you know, I just remember repeating in my head, "I can't let this happen to anyone else. I can't let this happen to anyone else." And that was what inspired me to start All for Doggies, which was about the first or second doggy daycare in Chicago. It was so new back then that no one really knows. I think there might have been one other that started before me, but so it became quite a business and one that I almost started overnight. I quit my job with Accenture in December of 90. That happened in July. I quit my job in December and then I just put it all out there. And for entrepreneurs who are listening to this, like, you got to believe in what you do and you got to
Yeah.
put everything you have behind it, not just your money, but your heart and soul. I
That's right.
liquidated my 401k. I emptied my bank accounts. I maxed out my credit cards. I moved out of my apartment with my roommates and moved into the store I was building. I sold my Jeep, which I saved. I mean, this is like my dream car, post graduation. When I was growing up, I always wanted to have a Jeep Wrangler.
Yeah.
City used to ride in the back of the Wrangler and he
Right.
drool all over the back and, all over cars next to us.
Yeah.
He was known all over Chicago for this. And so I sold everything I had and I put everything into that first store and it became hugely successful, hugely successful. We were on every broadcast, ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. We were written up in the Trib and,
Wow.
we were on talk shows. No one could really figure out what we were doing back then, right?
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
were just kind of, we know that they're dog walkers, but what's this doggy daycare?
Yeah.
So the business just took off and it was a challenge for me. I can tell you that, coming from Accenture, I was accustomed to working with, people who were, self-starters. They
Sure.
were entrepreneurial, very much entrepreneurial, right? You could give them a project and say, hey, go do it. And they would do it.
Right.
And then when you go from that to actually having to manage people and get the best out of them,
Right.
at my very young age of just 27, I wasn't that good at it. And that was probably downright terrible. And if anyone who used to work for me back then is listening to this, I apologize. You can call me the benevolent despot because that's really what my heart was always in the right place, but my head always wasn't. And I apologize.
Good.
But, I managed the business and I was an owner operator for 3.5 years. And then I decided, okay, I want to get back home to New York, but I was attached to this business.
Yeah.
So I sold it out to a company called Best Friends Pet Care. They were a consolidator in the industry.
Yeah.
And it did very well and moved back to New York thinking that I wasn't going to
Oh,
be
that was your doggy run.
that was my doggy run. But no, that was not my doggy run. A friend of mine, I moved back to New York, a friend of mine who's in real estate sees a store in Tribeca and he says, Dan, I remember you told me about this thing you did in Chicago, right? Again, it wasn't that hot. This 2004. And so he shows me this store in Tribeca and I just fall in love with it. I'm like, this is a great opportunity. I was missing the business at the time.
Sure.
So I reinvested everything that I made from the first platform into a new platform called Spot. And then I was really in. I was really, really in. I invested my money and then I took on some outside capital to help
Yeah.
expand the business. And I built it up to 4 locations.
Wow.
And then I looked to further expand the business. And this is another great lesson for you entrepreneurs out there. When you're looking to expand your business, be careful who you partner with. I made a really bad partnership decision in 2011. And I ended up having to divest myself of the business that I love in a city that I love, and I was even though I think I was still evolving. I was a much better manager second
Sure.
time around than I was the first time.
Yeah.
And but I had to get out. It was a really toxic partnership. I tucked the tail between my legs, left New York because I had to, went to Florida, started working with my stepdad, on some technology projects in unrelated industries.
Yeah.
And then I looked to get back to the Midwest for personal reasons and ended up back in Chicago. I was on another project for a cash flow lending business where I did some sales and tech consulting. That project ended and I'm like, well, what now?
Yeah.
Back into doggy daycare. And I really bootstrapped this one, Pups Pet Club. I at that time, I didn't have any money. The transaction from the second platform did not go well at all. Another warning to you entrepreneurs out there, if you're, looking to exit, do so very carefully and have good attorneys.
Yeah.
And I started walking dogs and training dogs and just getting back into the reasons that I really love the business to start with,
Yeah.
dogs.
Yeah.
I scraped together the money for the first store in 2014. We opened it in December of 15,
Okay.
and then it just again took off. It was in the River North neighborhood in Chicago. Great neighborhood full of young professionals. We catered to them. This is a small 1,450 square foot store, but we did small dog daycare, we did grooming, we did veterinary services, we had a retail presence,
Yeah.
and we did training as well. And then I attracted another investor, made a much better deal for myself this time around. And that investor helped me grow the business to 4 locations. COVID hit. That changed the
Things change.
business forever, and it actually made my investor rethink his investment. He was looking for an investment that provided him with cash flow. I was looking for something much different. I was looking for a platform that I could build
Yeah.
into something bigger. So I was making an equity play. He was making a cash flow play. He said, Dan, I don't like the cash flows. Who would like the cash flows during the pandemic? It wasn't good
Right.
for any business, I don't think.
Yeah.
And so I happened to get an opportunity to buy him out, which I did. And now here we are today. I've expanded the business with some additional debt capital, debt financing I've gotten, but also from the cash flows of the business. You got to believe in your business. And if you believe in your business and you're an entrepreneur, the greatest investment that you can make is in yourself.
That's right.
So, you know, stock market's great, real estate's great, but you got to be investing in your business. So every single dollar goes back into building stores and building a great team.
Yeah.
'Cause those are two of the
Makes
of
sense.
the many components. And we also happen to invest a lot in technology too. We believe that is a
Yeah.
key competitive advantage for us versus
Yeah.
our our competition out there. So anyway, I know that's a really long story,
No,
Chaz. I apologize for
pretty.
taking up so much airtime, but
No, it's a cool
there you
story,
go.
Dan. Don't apologize for your story, brother. The reason why people listen to this show is to hear stories. Of course, we want to hear about business, but that was a story about some awesome business and some ups and downs along the way. So I want to dissect, man. This is what I do. This is what I love. And so I heard all kinds of stuff in there. I was really holding back. I wanted you to finish because I wanted to jump in there. But okay, so a couple things in there that were really, really beneficial that I want to dissect further into. So I heard a good decision and some bad decisions.
Yeah.
And I want to go into both of those. So what would you say if you had to pick one good decision? Because you gave us several. There's some expansion. There's some, believing in yourself. There's a lot of really good principles that you just shared with us. But if you had to pick one decision that you made that has led you to where you are as far as like a successful business owner, what would that one thing be? Something that maybe we could go do in our own businesses.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's exactly what I said. I think it's believing in yourself and saying, okay, how can I invest my dollars wisely
Yeah.
so that I can build something of value, not just
Yeah.
value for yourself, but value for your team,
Yeah.
value for your customers, value for the community. If you have a value driven idea, you're bound to be successful, but you just can't go at an idea and think, okay, I just want to make money, right? That's the principle of business is that you need to go make profit, right?
Yep.
That's number one thing you have to do. All business need to make a profit.
Yeah.
But if you're going into your business simply to make a profit, you're never going to really, be a great business, you know, owner or entrepreneur. You've got to be thinking of others, right?
Yep.
And so I think for me, the greatest decision I made was following my heart, and getting into the dog business. I was a
Yeah.
tech consultant. My
Right.
family growing up was in real estate and manufacturing.
Yeah.
I thought I was going to be, a tech innovator of some
Yeah.
sort.
Yeah.
Probably would have ended up, putting on the sock puppet costume or something, working for pets.com. If I wasn't in doggy daycare.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
and I'm happy that happened because I do believe now retail is headed much more in a service focus than it is in a
Right.
traditional product focus. So
Yeah.
the online stores can handle all the traditional retail, the dog food and toys and stuff like that. But I think another great decision is, aside from believing yourself, is sticking to what I know and not
Yeah.
what I don't.
Yeah.
And
Good.
so trying to bring people in who I know can help. the organization, because the more you realize what you're good at, the more you want to focus on those things. And the more that highlights what you're not good at and the areas of the business that are weakest that really could use, professional help. And so building a great team around you is probably maybe the second best decision that I made, besides just investing in myself, is investing in others. Because if you have great people around you, you're always going to be better.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, both of those principles are huge. I think you gave some really cool examples of how you've been able to do that for yourself as well. What would you say for the person listening right now who, maybe they've invested in themselves and they're thinking about going to the next level? Maybe they have a couple of team members, but they're looking to really dive into being a better leader, investing in those kind of A players. You had already apologized to the people in your first run. How does this run look different? Maybe some practicals that you can give the listener, things that you're doing right now to build your team at a much higher quality.
Yeah. I think the one piece of advice that I could give is listen. Like, just shut up and listen. You might have a great idea. You might think that, your education or experience kind of puts you ahead of the others that might, you know, either with competition or, people that you work with, right? That you might know something more. But the best thing that I've found that works for me nowadays is that I spend a lot of time listening to partners, especially listening to my employees, which I don't call them employees, I call team members, right? And I think
Yeah. Yeah.
they're very much vested in our collective success because, I empower them to make decisions. I'm making my decisions based on feedback that I get from them.
Right.
So I think being a better listener inevitably makes you a better manager. You
100%.
have to have the other skills. You've got to be organized. You've got to be able to make good decisions. You've got to, be empathetic, right? And understand that not everyone thinks like you or
That's
acts
right.
like you.
Right.
So patience is key, but more importantly, more than anything else, if you want to be a great manager, listen. Listen at least twice as much as you talk, at
Yeah.
least. And that would probably be the minimum. If you want to be super awesome, listen all the time and talk very little.
Yeah.
I'm talking the most right now that I ever.
Yeah, well, it's okay. This is where you shine because this
We're
is your
not we're not
podcast.
a team, so I can freely just let it go.
Yeah, 100%. And it's actually a little bit of a secret about being a guest is that you could talk about you, which not a lot of guys at our level,
Yeah.
we're always listening, which is fine. It's a blessing to listen what you're talking about. You get so much value and you give so much value when you listen. But when you flip the script and you get to guest on a show, you go for it. You get to talk about you, which is great. So, okay, listening. We got the good decisions here. You've made some really good moves in business. Appreciate you sharing. Let's flip the coin. You mentioned bad partnership, maybe the way that it was structured, exiting in a way that wasn't so good. Pick one of those. Tell us some details. What was a bad decision that didn't work
Oh,
out so good?
oh my. Well, I have a master's degree, but it wasn't in business. I have a master's in science. So I,
Okay,
I never ended up in the Harvard Business School. But
sure.
I certainly paid the price in real world experience.
Mhm.
So
That's
whatever
right.
education I've received, I've definitely paid for it. And I think, if you're expanding your business and you're looking for partners, whether it's equity or debt, you've got to make sure that you're partnered with the right people. You got to do all your homework, do your diligence, know those people backwards and forwards, and take your time making that decision, because a hasty decision will inevitably sink you. And so that's really what destroyed me in round two, my second platform of being in this industry.
Yeah.
I was in love with the business. Second time around, I had you know, no thoughts about getting out. And then I just ran into the wrong person. And I happened to be in a vulnerable place in my life. So emotionally, there was something going on there. I encourage everyone, if you're a great manager and a great leader, you're separating out the emotion from the decision making process.
Right.
And I didn't at that time. And it was a very expensive lesson, both personally and professionally and financially. So know your partners, know them very well. They shouldn't just be friends, right? They should not but they should be trusted advisors, people that you can go to and you would know in your heart of hearts that they would never screw you over. And it takes time to get to know someone on that level.
That's
Um,
right. That's right.
and so I was really hasty in my decision making process. I was an impetuous entrepreneur. I was promised something, and that promise was not delivered. I was asked to do certain things, you know, in lieu of that promise. And, of course, yeah, it was bad. Anytime, anytime you're giving up controlling interest of your business, guys and gals out there, you've got to make sure that you're protected.
Yeah.
And so I think that's advice I could give any entrepreneur as you move towards a transaction, a partnership or an exit transaction, anything. Know those people, right? Know those people intimately. Take your time. Make sure it's a really extensive courtship,
Yeah.
so that absolutely can say there's never no 100%, right? But you could be, I'd say, like it's 95%. I wouldn't even say that I couldn't. My situation, I might have been
Yeah.
50% or less for sure. Like it was not a well thought out plan on my part.
Yeah.
So
Well, I like how
yeah.
you used intuition. Really, you didn't say that word, but that's really what it was. It's like, you know, taking your time, paying attention to how you know this person, listening to your gut. Like you just said,
Oh yeah.
your gut really told you otherwise, but you weren't really listening. You were making a hasty decision for whatever reason, pressures of that moment, the emotional pressure. There's a lot of things that go into us making decisions that, keep us, I guess, from the better part of the decision making process. So with that said, as I kind of move over here to like, okay, well, that's what you learned. What about now? Like something comes across your desk and you have to make a big decision on something. Is there a magic formula that you follow now?
I think it's the one I just gave you. Like I take my time. I'm going through one of those decisions. I can't get into the details right now, but let's just loosely call it an expansion opportunity. And so I had several offers, several people wanting to partner with us, and I've narrowed it down to one partner, and now I'm committing myself to that partner, basically saying, okay, when else you got to put them aside. I think really good decisions are not like, you don't know them when you make them, right? You just try to make the best decision you possibly can with the information that you have.
That's right.
But when you're making a decision, you're cutting off all the other possibilities and you're sticking with that decision and you're going forward.
That's right.
And you're hopefully making that decision based on really great information. The
Right.
decision that I'm making right now, what I'm referring to, I've made over an extensive period of time.
Yeah.
And I've considered lots of different opportunities actively, I'd say over the past 9 months, but passively over the past 5 or 6 years, as more and more people are drawn to, outside investors are drawn to our business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when I first got at Chaz, when I first got no private equity company, they couldn't figure out what I was doing, let alone
Yeah.
they invest in it. You're just a dog walker.
That's not
Not interested in that.
scalable.
Not scalable. So, you know, commit to the decision once you made it, but take your time making the decision.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good. It's good. I'm going to go over to our speed round here, Dan. Inside this Pups Pet Care, what would you say is the
Pups Pet Club.
Pet Club? Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Everyone does the same thing. Always, always.
Thanks for the clarification there. What would you say the number one KPI or the one thing that you would track forever and ever would be?
Utilization.
Okay.
Yeah, we track utilization. So, forecasting utilization, historical utilization, in our business, that's everything. So,
And give us just a little bit more for someone who doesn't understand what that is that's
sure, sure. I mean, it goes in several. So it comes down to visits, right? How many
right.
daycare visits
How
are,
engaged.
yeah, exactly. How engaged are customers, right? So that's, you tell that by the number of reservations they're making. So as you're forecasting out a customer to make 300 reservations over the course of a 365-day year, that's
That's
a
pretty
pretty
engaged.
nice, yeah, it's a pretty nice, pipeline that you've set yourself up with.
Right.
So, and the same goes for overnights, training, grooming. We consider the four core services: daycare, overnights, training, and grooming. And so we heavily track utilization of those services
Yep.
and try to increase utilization by marketing campaigns. We have drip campaigns, customer journeys that we've set up, active customer solicitation campaigns based on data, right? Things that they're doing. So customer behavior and also actual pet data too. For example, we know when, a dog is due for his vaccinations.
Right.
We're sending them vaccination reminders. We're also encouraging them to use our veterinary services.
Right.
We know if we acquire a young dog for services through our puppy play care program. And we also know inherently, as you're a pet parent yourself, that young dogs require training. They require first grooming service. So early adoption is key too.
Right.
But utilization is something we actively track. Pairing up utilization with good data will help you win the customer and get more out of them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because let's face it, like now, when I first started, there wasn't another doggy daycare for
Yeah. Right.
hundreds of miles, right?
Right.
Now
Right.
they seem to be on every corner. So you got to be doing it better than
Yeah.
than your competition.
Yep.
And so
Choices.
there's choices. So not only KPIs are important, but it's really at the core, your mission's got to be right, right? And ours is to take great care of dogs. You know, everything else is secondary. And it says it right there on our website. That's what we publish. And that's true, right? Like your heart has got to be in the right place. Your head's got to be in the right place. And everything else kind of comes along after that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going back to your question, as we get into the business support, what the finance guys are always interested in talking about is things like utilization, customer spend, lifetime value of the customer. Yeah. All these things we track.
Yep.
So yeah, super important stuff, but don't lose sight of your mission ever,
I
ever.
I liked how you did a really good job there of tying that utilization to the mission because, for example, you have someone coming for doggy daycare, but they don't come in ever for overnights, or don't come in ever for grooming service, or don't come in ever for your core service. Then it doesn't mean that that person is not engaged or not is unhappy necessarily, but they're not as engaged as they could be. You're not serving them to the fullest possible possibility. You're not taking care of that dog the best way possible because they're going other places for other services. So there's truth in that mission that's very connected to utilization, which is the top KPI that you would track. So
You're right. I mean, so cross sell and upsell opportunities are all born out of utilization data analytics. So just like you said, if you've got someone who's coming in for daycare and they're not utilizing you for the other services, you're doing something wrong,
yeah,
hands down, right? So if I've got a store that offers the full suite of services and someone's only using one, I'm losing,
right.
right?
Could be
I'm
as
I'm
simple as they just don't know about the other ones, right?
Yeah, right. So sometimes it comes down to simple things like, store signage, right?
Right.
Like
Right.
advertising right in there in your store, what you do. Sometimes it's more complex things, right? You've actually got to win a customer over because they have a relationship with someone else for a
Yeah.
service. And you do have to do it better. You have to prove yourself to your customer every day, especially in this business. This is an emotionally driven business where you're taking care of live animals, people's family members. And if you're not doing it right every day, you're going to lose, right?
They're gonna know.
Yeah, they're going to know, right? So our stores, first of all, our people are great, right? And they're all bought into the mission. We hire dog lovers at every level, even the senior leadership level. You've got to, you can't be just a numbers cruncher and come work for me. It's just not going to work.
Right.
But especially at the line level, our daycare attendants are amazing. Our groomers, our trainers, they really care. They care about the dogs and they care about the pet parents and they care about things that are important to pet parents, like having a great relationship and making sure that your dog lives a long and healthy life because they bring so much joy to us. Why wouldn't we want them to,
Right.
you know, to be around for as long as they can?
Yeah.
And I think in that way, we contribute to people's happiness. And I really believe that, right? When someone walks through our doors, the experience of seeing their dog well cared for and knowing their dog's getting proper exercise or properly groomed or properly trained is going to enhance their personal lives, right? And their own personal relationship with their dog. And so I believe that strongly. I believe that's, what we do to help people. If people ask me, okay, how do we help people? That's it, right? You know, and who doesn't want a better relationship with their dog? Because, you know, it's been proven scientifically that dogs are better for us, for humans, right? For our emotional well-being.
Yeah.
So if I can somehow improve that relationship, hey, we're
It's a
winning.
big deal. It's a big deal. Yeah. I think even for the guy, like I wouldn't necessarily say that I'm a dog lover, but every dog that we've had, I've loved. And there's love that gets, given back and forth. And even we share the love for St. Bernards. I had a St. Bernard, like you said earlier, they don't live for very long. And that was a sad day for me. That was probably one of the most, I mean, I'm not an emotional guy like at all. I could probably count on one hand the times I've been like physically emotional and like stuff came out of my eyes. I don't know what that is. Yeah. And that was one of those days, And so I think that you're speaking truth, but inside of that, for business purposes, it's taking care of your people, taking care of your clients through your people, and taking care of all of that through the mission statement. And so all of those things just go boom, boom, boom right in a row. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. Whether you have a product or service too, right? It doesn't matter. Like if you have a great product, you're aligned with our thinking, I think. I mean, I
Yeah.
hope you are. Otherwise, I'm doing it wrong, but I don't
Yeah.
think I'm doing it. But yeah, I mean, it's the principles are the same. They
Right.
really are.
Yep.
You got to have a great product or great service. You got to back it up with great people. You've got to have amazing technology. So the digital experience for the customer has got to be incredible. And then, you've got to basically wrap it all together, in a nice bow, by always following your mission, always, every day, no matter what.
Yep. Love
And
it.
so you're gonna be faced with decisions that are really tough, financially tough, and but if the decision that you're about to make is incongruent with your mission,
Yeah.
then you've got to stick to your mission, no matter what the cost is.
Yep. Mic drop. But I got a couple more questions, so let's not drop it quick yet. My next one is about just a resource or maybe a book that you like, business related potentially, that listeners can go pick up and grow. What would you recommend?
Oh God, been so long. Who's got time to read nowadays?
Or podcast or whatever resource that's been beneficial to you.
The last book I read, oh, and I'm going to forget right now, so you might have to go and look this up. It was David Goggins. Now I
Oh,
remember. David Goggins
yeah.
was the author. I can't remember the title of the book. It was
Can't
an
Hurt Me.
amazing. Can't Hurt Me.
Yep.
I recommend that book to every single entrepreneur.
Yeah.
My story, I think, is a story of perseverance.
Yeah.
I've been knocked down so many times, and people have told me you can't do this, or there's no way you're going to survive, or no way
Right.
you're going to be successful.
Yep.
And every single time, I've been like, okay, like I hear you. I'm taking that feedback and I'm using it as fuel,
Yeah.
right? As motivation to prove them wrong.
Yep.
And David Goggins is the ultimate like person who has persevered in my mind.
Yeah.
He's an incredible role model for not only business people, but also for individuals. I greatly admire him and I would love to get a chance to meet him. Incredible character. I also happen to be, a endurance athlete like he turned out to be.
Got it.
His Navy SEAL. But yeah. So there are a lot of correlation between preparing for an Ironman race
Right.
as there are for preparing to open a business or operate a business.
That's right.
So,
Yeah.
and
That's
yeah.
hugely valuable. And I second that. I love everything about his energy. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I got one last question here for you, Dan. I want to know if you had the opportunity to whisper in the younger Dan's ear, what would you say?
Well, you already said it. Listen to your gut. Listen to your gut trust your gut, because your gut will never steer you wrong. The only times I really made like serious mistakes looking back, because again, you always think you're making the best decision at the time you're making them, was when I didn't trust my gut. So do that, Dan, and your life might have been a little bit easier, but everything's turned out okay. So I'm very happy with the way things have turned out. I think, I hate to sound, you know, this is so cliche, but everything happens for a reason. And so all those really difficult times in my life, both personally and professionally, have gotten to me where I am today. And I wouldn't have everything that I do have in my life, all the great people that I'm surrounded with, my kids, my beautiful, extraordinary, amazingly intelligent wife, and my family. I wouldn't have all that, and the business too, you know, if it weren't for all those experiences, both good and bad.
Yeah, I mean, the business started because of a quote unquote bad experience.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I
Yeah.
think it's all in hindsight and it's all perspective. And
Mhm.
so I think that you've been raw and real with us here today. But Dan, how can, if we're in the Chicagoland area or in New York potentially, if you've got a location there, I think you said, but how can we find you? How can we do business with you? How can we locate you as an individual, as an entrepreneur, and maybe pick your brain about business?
Yeah. I mean, listen, my email's right out there. Anyone who wants to email me, please, just dan@petclub.com. I'm always willing to talk to other entrepreneurs, especially people in this business, as we grow our business and we look to partner with some great people. In Chicago, it's super easy. Just get Google dog daycare and we're going to pop up. We've got 6 locations there. We're the preeminent brand in Chicago. We've got locations in every major neighborhood. And in New York, it's a little tougher to find us. We just started our first. We need some help here. So please, any Chaz listeners, please come and visit us in
Yeah.
Williamsburg, in Brooklyn. We've got a beautiful store. It's 3,400 square feet. It's got the full suite of services. It's amazing. It's like nothing else in the neighborhood, and just we're not as well known as some of the other providers right now. So I think if you stop by with your dog, you certainly wouldn't be disappointed by the look of the store, certainly the smell of the store, because we use top of the line mechanical systems, and the experience you get with our team.
That's great. Yeah, I know a few actually podcast guests that are in that area, and I'll have to get you connected so we can get some traffic going that way.
Yeah, please do.
I love it. I love it. Well, Dan, you've been, like I said, real and raw both, but the story is encouraging. It's inspiring. You said that you like inspiring stories, but that's what you gave us here today. So I just appreciate your time, man, but willing to share. And we wish you nothing but blessing on your family and your business locations and all the things that you guys are doing here in 2023. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thanks, Chad.
Thank you for listening to Gathering the Kings today. I hope that you were able to pull out a few nuggets to go apply into your business right away. More importantly, though, I hope that you're realizing that it takes more to be successful than just being by yourself, doing it all on your own, carrying the weight all by yourself. What I have realized, not only in my own journey from multiple businesses and multiple different industries, and now interviewing literally over 200 or 300 other very successful 7, 8, and 9-figure business owners, is that it's tough to do it alone. And so Gathering the Kings literally exists to bring together successful entrepreneurs. In fact, we are putting together 1,000 kings, specifically who are grateful but not done. We're intentionally assembling kings who fight tooth and nail for their business, family, and communities. And here's what we believe, that in the pursuit of excellence in those areas, that it ignites within us the responsibility to govern power and forge a lasting legacy. So if that relates and resonates with you, and you know that you need people around you, sharp, qualified, other very successful business owners, I want you to go to gatheringthekings.com. I want you to take a look at what we're doing and see if it makes sense for you to be part of our pursuit to 1,000 kings. Talk soon.